and welcome to the Symposium on Issues at the Intersections of Engineering and Human Rights. My name is Al Romig. I am the Executive Officer of the National Academy of Engineering, member of our aerospace section, along with Wes Harris, who I just saw in the back of the room. We are collectively known as the NAE Bowtie Guys. If you wonder what an executive officer is, for those of you in industry, it's the chief operating officer. For those of you in academia, it's the provost. So I'm here serving at the pleasure of John Anderson, who joined with you yesterday. But it's my delight to invite you all here again for your second day of the session. I think, as you know, the role and the mission of the National Academy of Engineering is to advise the government, but also to ensure that there's a vibrant engineering profession. And that means all the way from K through 12 through undergraduate, graduate, into your career, et cetera. And that means for everyone, regardless of whether or not someone has any kind of a disability or not, their gender, their race, and so forth. And of course, the whole role of the Committee on Human Rights is rooted in understanding the fields of human rights and broadly, but also what we're trying to do today is look at how engineering intersects that. If you think about it, there are so many things involving human rights where engineering has the opportunity to actually prevent things from happening or to in fact remedy situations when in fact they do. If you think about even things in our own country, a lot has happened, for example, in the area of law enforcement with the introduction of body cams. And so just a good example of engineering and how people are treated intersecting with one another. We think that these overlapping goals between the Academy and the Committee on Human Rights are ones that will help us ensure that we have a more equitable and just future for all. And we hope that the discussions you had yesterday, the ones you have today, will continue to do the same thing. I heard great feedback about what happened yesterday. I talked with Charlie Bolden for a bit late yesterday afternoon. I know he'll be with us here in a little bit at an appointment that he had to attend to. And I gathered that between here and online, we had somewhere probably a bit north of 300 people that were involved in it, which I think is just great. And it's always good to see so many people in the room when you have a hybrid, because it's too easy for people just to log in and sit at their desk and drink coffee, as opposed to actually coming to the session. What we'd like to do today is continue in the same spirit that we had yesterday, continue the dialogue and the engagement, and hopefully lay some plans for how we might treat this issue collectively and individually as we go forward into the future. You know, as John said yesterday, the idea of gathering the highlights that come out of this session and add those to our collective responsibility that engineers have to really make some unique solutions to help address these really critical issues. And I'm grateful to every one of you for taking the time to participate, whether it's in person or online during this. So with that, let me not get us behind, and I think it's now Deb Niemeier's turn. Where is she? There she is in the back, to come up and introduce the first day session. And I will be careful not to steal your notes.
That's right, they're on my notes. Yeah.
I'm going to be in the back of the room for most of the day.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Deb Niemeier. I'm a professor at the University of Maryland in Civil and Environmental Engineering, and I am a member of the National Academy Standing Committee on Human Rights. And I want to mention, just before I get into sort of my quick recap, that the Committee on Human Rights is a body comprising members of the National Academy of Science, the National Academy of Engineering, and the National Academy of Medicine. And as part of our work apart from our work in raising awareness of human rights challenges related to science, engineering, and medicine, we also advocate on behalf of colleagues suffering human rights abuses across the globe. And many of these human rights abuses are the result of the work they actually are doing. We frequently learn of such cases from members of the medical, science, or engineering community. And if you know about such instances, please email us. We can be reached at chr@nas.edu. So with that, I want to start. First, I want to apologize for the gravelly voice. I've been 2 weeks of nonstop meetings. The allergies in DC are terrible right now. And I'm training a puppy, which is a study in delayed gratification. I want to take, on behalf of CHR and the Planning Committee, I want to thank everyone for coming. We had 100 plus people in the room at one point. We had more than 300 people attending at one point yesterday. This workshop is so important for the field of engineering. In the last 30 years of my career, in which human rights issues were raised as a possible issue, I cannot remember a single time in which there was more than one engineer in the room, me. Teaching our students and giving practice to engineers on how to be cognizant and have the language to talk about human rights is so critical. We are the problem solvers across the built environment and the natural landscape. We can see things other disciplines do not see, and that gives us a very privileged perspective. Our starting point for this event was including discussions that the promotion of human rights isn't solely for human rights professionals, that engineers, every discipline, including engineers, have a role to play in ensuring fundamental rights and dignity. There's a need to think more deeply about the role engineers can play in helping to address societal problems, including those around disparities, which we heard a lot over the day yesterday. Including, we discussed yesterday, the value of human rights perspectives and thinking about how engineers can respond to injustice. And this involves asking questions like, who bears the burdens associated with new technologies? Who's being left behind? I work a lot on who is left behind. How does our position as engineers, our power as engineers, influence how we look at our work and look at issues as they arise? And how do we ensure that we are practicing meaningful engagement with those who are impacted by products and designs that we produce? I will say to you, it only takes one insightful caution about disparity or human rights at one particular point in time to create generations of benefit. Generations of benefit. And one point can make a huge difference. But to make that observation, engineers must understand, at the very least, the broad strokes of human rights. And this includes human rights law, the binding treaties. All of these provide a basic framework for a wide range of rights. And these range from sort of civil rights, which is the right to life and the right to privacy, all the way to socioeconomic rights, which is the right to health, the right to water, and to a healthy environment. Yesterday, we heard from engineering educators at Boston University, Drexel, and UConn about the ways in which they are teaching engineers to recognize the issues of human rights. We heard from those in the legal profession at Howard and UConn about the principles of human rights, and we heard from those operationalizing the basic tenets of human rights in their work on medical facilities. Our practice session in the afternoon discussion revolved around the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and thinking about how to address issues of accessibility and disability. But fully integrating human rights into engineering practice is going to take a lot of work. We need major educational reform in engineering in order to prepare students for the challenges they face. We need companies to understand how their financial incentives should align with the human rights norms. And we need engineers to engage with members of the human rights community. Today's session will build on yesterday's program by examining the importance of participation and inclusion in engineering decision-making. The integration of human rights into systems and product design, and finally, the issue of how to address human rights harms. And in the afternoon, there's going to be this great session on human rights assessment in the context of AI. And so throughout the day, we're going to challenge you to think about how human rights might be relevant to your own work. Now, I will say these conversations by design are meant to challenge your preconceptions of how engineers interact with and protect our basic rights. These conversations also show how our profession as engineers can evolve as a result of deeper understanding about how we transect with human rights. And it has been inspiring to be here with so many different fields represented and hearing so many different conversations. When I travel with my spouse, someone in the room will always say, or usually say, "What is it you all do?" And I will say, "I'm an engineer." And my spouse will say, "I'm an art historian." And there is always this brief pause before the person says, "I love art history." So today, as we continue our conversations, I urge everyone who isn't an engineer to push themselves into their discomfort zone and talk to an engineer.